If I made a review of like the Ring City, I feel like I would have one sentence about the run back, if that. Who cares? He's really gonna bring out the timer for this? Like, come on. No, he has no excuse. Fuck Joseph Anderson. Oh my god. I think through laziness, Joseph Anderson has lucked into giving people the impression that he considers his opinions more carefully than he does. But he did kind of build in the assumption that they were going to feel negatively, didn't he? Fuck you, Joseph Anderson. Why are you like this? Oh my god. Okay, no, you know what? No, we need to go deeper now. I'm changing the stream details. I don't really have anything against Joseph Anderson specifically, except that I think he's a disingenuous fuck when it comes to Soulsborne games, and he doesn't understand them, which is maybe worse. No, it's not. It's not. It's definitely not, but that's okay. Like, I haven't really watched many of his other videos. I'm not sure whether he has good or bad takes, like, generally speaking. I just know he had a shit one in Elden Ring. Based off his Elden Ring takes. Yeah, I don't know, maybe we could, just, like, shoot off from the fucking hip and go for some Joseph Anderson videos of games that I've played, and I can yell at him or something, I don't know. Even his DS3 ones? Yeah, well, he doesn't understand Pontiff Sully, though, and I remember Lupine, in particular, like, gave him a bunch of shit for that. Rightfully so, by the way. Let it never be said he didn't deserve it. Oh, I thought I was dead. Weird shit about Ponce. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Man, Pontiff is so easy, too. That's the thing, like... Whatever. It's fine. Like, he's one of the harder ones in DS3, probably, but he's not hard at all. I struggle to fight him at an appropriate, like, power level whenever I replay the game. He has a vid about this where I feel like he doesn't even say all that much. Oh yeah, maybe I should watch his Liza P video once I finish it. Maybe that would be something. I don't want to just, like, make a habit of going after Joseph Anderson, though. Like, I don't care that much about him. I will, Giga Chad. Hell yeah. Well, yeah, you can do that if you want. Absolutely. Maybe if he has videos about games that I, like, really care about, like, a lot. Think he has Dragon Age? Why don't we, like, just take a look real quick and get some vibes? I'm having trouble focusing on the game anyway. Oh, I don't see anything about it from him. Dragon's Dogma? Oh, I haven't played that. I guess maybe Dark Souls 2 might be a good litmus test. Let's just, like, skip to the middle or something.
It's clear that this is a huge downgrade from the first Dark Souls. So then why did I say that I want to argue
good vibes
that the
right
gap
away.
in quality between these titles isn't so large?
Oh, God damn it,
I want to
Joseph.
propose that this degeneration actually began in Dark Souls 1. The approximate point that the change happens is, funnily enough, after acquiring the Lord Vessel. It makes me think that it was the inclusion of the teleport that resulted in level design that was so poor. After Sen's Fortress, there's a clear shift away from both layered levels and interconnectedness. Take the following
isn't it, like, basically confirmed that the reason the second half of Dark Souls has shitty level design is because it was rushed? Like, I get the Lord Vessel, like, kind of creates an excuse, and that's, like, an easy connection to make, but don't we know the reason that that's the case, and it's not that? Alright. Okay.
Description. There are a few detours for extra items, but to reach the boss you follow a long, straightforward path from the bonfire with no shortcuts to unlock. Am I talking about the Undead Crypt, or Shrine of Amana, or Tomb of Giants, Chasm of the Abyss, Lost Izalith, Sinner's Rise, Crystal Caves? Excluding the DLC, the really well-designed levels in Dark Souls 1 are the early ones.
That's true.
Even Anor Londo could have done this far better, with Painted World being the best example of what it could have been.
But that's not the reason why.
Same can be said for Dark Souls 2, which is one of the reasons why I think it's forgivable that so many people changed their opinion on the game. The first level, Forest of Fallen Giants, loops into itself and has two major shortcuts for the player to find. Shortly after that, Lost Bastille has lots of hidden extras and layered paths. You can even skip the first boss in this area outright. But after that, there are a handful of shortcuts here and there that don't really mean much. Usually the game leads you somewhere else to get a key or flip a switch to open the second path closer to the bonfire.
Yeah, like, I hate the shortcuts and shit and secret doors and Iron Keep. That's so fucking frustrating. I hate it so much. Okay.
This doesn't feel so much like a shortcut as it is just...
I feel like I'm just going to agree with a lot of what he says, but also there's some weird shit in here already, right? Like, why are you blaming the Lord Vessel for the shitty half of the second half of Dark Souls 2? Like, we know it was rushed. I don't know. Also, New Londo is a great level, and that's in the second half of Dark Souls. Because he's a hack, yeah, true. Actually, that's... Yeah, there you go. Nailed it. I couldn't have put it better myself. How do you feel about, like, Skyrim? Does he like Skyrim? I need to look at his channel. Shut up. Shut up. Fuck. If I can find something to be mad at him enough about, I'll join you in your crusade. I think that's what I'm trying to do right now, secretly. Oh, he doesn't upload a lot, does he? I thought he had a lot more videos than this. I don't know why he's so popular. I guess people think he's like really good. I don't know. It's amazing what like a thesaurus and an even tone will do for you in this world, isn't it?
The one word I would use to describe Ring City would be bittersweet. It is for now the end of Dark Souls, although I'm sure From will release something similar
video
in the
equals
future,
insightful,
whether that's a sequel to Bloodborne or a new direction for the same core ideas. Paid a remixed version of the game like we have
I don't care about any of this. I just want you to talk about the bosses. Can we... How do you feel about Midir? Medea? The fuck? What?
Midir, on the other hand...
I'm sorry, what? Why did you do this, Joseph?
And is the opposite of Gale in almost
every... Wait, Gale's spelled wrong too. Demon boss. Okay. You know what?
Although he does have almost as spectacular an introduction as he swoops into guard his cliff, the path that leads to the boss fight itself is hidden and tucked away. Midir is one of the best dragon fights in a series that has a mixed bag of dragon fights. I have a feeling that many players are going to have varying experiences with this boss. There's a lot it does well, and arguably more it does poorly. For me, it's in the top 3 below Sin and Calamite, but I didn't feel that way until I killed him a second time.
Wait. What?
The 3 biggest problems that I have with Midir all interact and compound to make each other worse.
Oh no.
First up is his gigantic health bar that makes the...
Alright. Here, can I just preempt whatever is... It's gonna be a bunch of shit that shows how he doesn't understand the fight. Right?
It's an endurance fight, even though...
And I'm gonna be able to easily pick it out and be like, oh, just do this instead, just do this instead, just do this instead.
Several moves that do an extraordinary amount of damage. Combine that with how ill-suited the camera is to keeping up with all of the
Joseph, just stay in front of his head. That's how they made it. There's only one lock-on point for a reason.
Can do, and you can find yourself dying to a move you've never seen before just because you weren't able to see what was happening. After you've spent a lot of time...
You know what? Maybe that's the tone I'll take with these people from now on, is just treat them like children. Joseph, you know better than that.
Fighting through that huge health bar.
It's not like they're ever going to watch my shit anyway, so I'll just try everything.
The corpse run from the nearest bonfire is a full step over the line named ridiculous. The distance itself...
I didn't even hear what he said. What did he say?
...was happening after you've spent a lot of time fighting through that huge health bar. Thirdly, and perhaps worst of all, the corpse run from the nearest bonfire is a full step over the line named ridiculous.
Midir's run back is annoying.
The distance itself isn't that long, but you have to run from the bonfire, ride an elevator down to the bottom, wait for it to reset, then ride it back up again and jump through a hidden door.
It's just like not that big of a deal. Like I would never, if I made a review of Dark Souls, like the Ring City, I feel like I would have one sentence about the run back, if that. Like, who cares? He's really gonna bring out the timer for this? Like, come on.
Corridors.
You don't even have to kill anything.
Slide down a long ladder, run across the room, and
it's called Stop Dying Scrub, true.
Even after doing all of this, still far across...
Yeah, it actually is, because Midir's pretty fucking easy.
...room and has a wake-up animation he plays as you run there, not to mention any further delay you might have if you want to find your bloodstain first. The reason I feel comfortable pointing to this as something that feels like an intentionally cruel joke is that there are no enemies anywhere during this run.
It's
the
cinematic.
Elevator and ladder also make it annoying since you have to stop and wait for both of them. And it's all a waste of time. There's no challenge, it's not interesting, there's no way to learn to do this faster or open a shortcut. It's this drawn-out run to a boss that is drawn out even more with all of his health. And I say all of that as someone who only died to this boss.
That is an extremely weird way to put that. Why would you say it like that? You're like now counting what, the entire fight as part of the run back, but only for that point? Okay.
When I first killed him, which is a good way to address the fight. I read
am I insane, or is that like basically what he just did?
All a waste of time. There's no challenge, it's not interesting, there's no way to learn to do this faster or open a shortcut. It's this drawn-out run to a boss that is drawn out even more with all of his health.
That's so stupid.
And I say...
Why would you say that?
All of that as someone who only died to this boss about 6 times when I first killed him. Which is
seriously? Okay. Do you have severe ADHD? Do you know how many times it took me to kill him on my first playthrough? Okay. Alright. No, I'm done. Okay. Can't wait to watch his Elden Ring DLC video. 6 times? And it bothered you that much? Okay. I mean, I know, like, that doesn't really matter, but again, it's such a minimal thing that I can't believe he's devoting that much time to it when the video isn't even that long. Like, probably like 10% of it at least is talking about Midir's run back, which again has nothing to it. Okay, whatever. Joseph Anderson is a hack, isn't he? Maybe we should watch more of his stuff. Fuck, no, I can't stop now. I'm gonna look again. Shit. Radius, you're corrupting me. 6 fucking times and can bitch that much about the run back to Midir. Fuck you. If that bothers you that much, how do you even like any part of Dark Souls 2, you loser? Jesus Christ. Just like any game that I've played. Well, that's what we're looking for now. I guess I've watched his Bloodborne stuff. Part of his DS3 stuff. Don't remember what he said much.
Delicious.
This is the third and final video I'm doing on Dark Souls 2. The first talked about what the series does well and the changes made in the sequel.
Then I go chapters, jeez.
They don't deal high damage, but it's still a
But you barely have any videos, man. You can at least go back and give your old ones chapters.
like many.
How am I supposed to get mad when I can't find the points I want to get mad at? Shit. Why would you do this to me, Joseph? All right, whatever. I don't know. We'll like. I'll go back through his work, I suppose, and watch some full videos sometime, and I'll just get mad at those. How about that? Because I'm sure there's like, that's the thing, is it's always like these little moments where he throws in some like batshit insane like turn of phrase or like just completely nonsensical thing, and it's hard to like skip to it if I don't know where it is. It's hard to like just jump somewhere and immediately get what's wrong with his criticism. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like he does get a lot of undue, like, I don't even know, what is the word, prestige in terms of his criticism. Like, people really hold him in high regard. Is it just because so many people didn't get Elden Ring like he didn't get it, or was that like the tipping point for him? Because I feel like that's when I started hearing his name a lot. So like, he's just like a confirmation bias success story, if that's the case. I mean, I assume he was big before that, but like that seems like to be the big, like, I don't know, whatever. It's like people talk about his Witcher 3 video like it's the fucking video to end all videos on the subject. I'm sure there's so many like deep dives on The Witcher out there that, like, The Witcher 3 too. I don't know, whatever. People used to agree with my Elden Ring video, and then as time went on, people started disagreeing with it, is something he says unironically. When every Souls game has had the "it's too hard" to "oh, it's not that hard" cycle. Yeah. It is disturbing that, in a sense, that he doesn't recognize that pattern. Because I feel like a few months ago, I was in the headspace that he was in, but then I kind of realized what was happening, I think. Thank you for the follow, Jessica Chandler. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. But yeah, alright. You know what? From now on, I only want people who are obsessed with the games. Because that's the thing. Joseph Anderson fucking moonlights as an autistic Souls fanboy, but he's fucking not, and I can tell. Alright? Only fucking... Yeah. Only people who have something wrong with them get to do this anymore. Fuck. If you're not insane about this, I don't want to hear your opinion. Insane in terms of dedication. Let me be clear. I 100% have more time in Elden Ring than he has in the entire series. That's kind of the vibe that I get, right? It's like it seems like he just doesn't spend that much time on them. Like before making his Ringed City video, he killed Midir twice. That's odd, I think. I feel like I would kill Midir like 5 times. I would kill every boss like 5 times before I go and make here's my high-level critique of this piece of content. I don't know. Like, I feel like now, at this stage of my development in playing these games, I could maybe make a good video about the Ringed City. I understand the drive to get content out about stuff quickly. Like, that makes sense. It's just, like, it seems to conflict with understanding for a lot of people.
Bring it on. You ain't seen nothing like my brother.
He's not even quick. That's true, isn't it? Wait, no, he has no excuse. Fuck Joseph Anderson. Oh my god. Okay, Radius, I'm with you. Alright. I'm not gonna be able to focus on Lysa P, man. I found the spite valve and now it's just fucking wide open. Yeah, Feeble King has the, not excuse, but explanation of having rushed his out. Joseph Anderson does not get that, actually. Because his, like, just came out, pretty much. Yeah, less than 2 weeks ago. My chat told me I was being too autistic about Elden Ring when I was ranting about his video on stream. Yeah. I mean, like, if somebody ever comes and says that to me, it's not like they'd be wrong, but I just don't see that as a bad thing, I guess. They definitely have a point. Okay, the Ashes of Arian, though, or the Ringed City one is short. Let's just watch the whole thing. I can't. I'm sorry. We have to do at least, like... Okay, we're doing it.
The one word I would use to describe Ring City would be bittersweet. It is, for now, the end of Dark Souls, although I'm sure From will release something similar in the near future, whether that's a sequel to Bloodborne or a new direction.
He predicted Elden Ring, Pog! Okay, I'm sorry.
The same core ideas. I'll also be shocked if we don't see anything on Dark Souls 4 or something of a series
How does he do it?
before 2020. For now, though, Dark Souls is over. But it comes with a bit of baggage.
Yeah, it's
there
happening.
are 2 elephants in the room here, not just one.
Oh boy.
First, let's review what exactly is in Ring City and get our usual spoiler warning out of the way.
See, he uses like metaphors and like elephant in the room, you know? What is the word I'm looking for here? Idioms. So you know he's smart.
All of the levels and the bosses, so turn back if you want to play it yourself first.
You know, okay. I bet he's going to complain about the level design. I think I would have a few months ago as well, but I actually kind of like the level design in the Ringed City. Like, it is annoying. I get why people complain about it, but I kind of have a fun whenever I go back there, to be honest.
Then exploring another swamp, which is, to me, visually distinct from others so far in the series. It's far more moody and thankfully doesn't poison you or slow your movement.
Yeah, you know what? That is true. This swamp is very atmospherically different than the rest.
Cliffside area with a dragon that leads
I tend to just try to get through it as quickly as possible, so I never really think about it much, but yeah.
And through a tower and a grand cathedral. The difference between these 2 larger areas is that Ring City feels more interconnected. The swamp leads back to the streets in 2 ways, and your climb through the tower loops back to the beginning of the level to reuse a bonfire for some bosses. The cathedral looked when I approached it, so I thought it was going to lead to a really cool boss fight like Pontiff Sullivan in his cathedral, and that I heard ahead of time that Ring City has 4 bosses.
At least he likes Pontiff. Like, at least the one move that he didn't understand didn't fucking ruin it for him.
When in reality, this was 3 for me personally because this was just a PvP invasion with a health bar. Having reconciled those warped expectations, I like the inclusion of this encounter, but it's important to say that this isn't going to be something everyone enjoys.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be kind of cool to try it as a PvP encounter. I've never gotten to do it that way.
Other 3 bosses range from good to great, although one in particular has been the source of some disagreement. The only boss in the Dreadkeep level is a 2-phase fight, 2 demons to begin with, and then a much larger one at the end.
Wait, was Midir controversial when he came out?
After the PvP fight, Gale in Ring City is the final boss of the game and is a standard duel that reminds me of a mix of Orphan of Cause and Artorias. Dark Eater Midir is arguably the real final boss, however. You can fight him before Gale and the PvP encounter, but I think he's meant to be done after both.
I have always done Gale last, personally. I don't know.
Of them, especially given From's comments about this being the ultimate challenge for fans of the series. You fight this dragon twice. The first time is on a cliff above the swamp, and it's unavoidable if you want to get to the other bosses. When you beat him, he falls away and suspiciously
awards
no
how he feels
souls,
about this.
which I think is a clever way of indicating that you should be prepared for his return.
Because I really like the bridge fight with Midir. I used to hate it.
An elevator ride, and then a fake wall inside of that area, a secret within a secret.
Would you believe it was the same as everything else? I didn't get it, and then once I did, I liked it.
3 substantial new fights that are fairly challenging. I don't think any of them are quite as difficult as Sister Frida from the Ashes DLC, which is a good way to address the first elephant in the room.
Went to grab food out of the oven. Has he said something stupid yet? Not really. It's been mostly just stuff that I agree with or is like not that objectionable.
Reviewed Ashes of Ariandel. The biggest piece of criticism I laid against it was a lack of content for the price.
Oh, I did have a question though. He seemed to imply that Midir was like controversial at some point, like when he first came out maybe? I didn't know that. I wasn't part of the community back then. Is that true? I didn't know.
In terms of quality, the DLC is good, but there was only 1 level and only 1 real proper boss.
If so, that goes to show how much people have improved since then. Like, fuck.
The real boss fight is the real final boss of the game, and is a standard duel that reminds me of a mix of Orphan of Cause and Artorias.
'Cause People thought he was really hard. Okay, so yeah, it was just like a, all right.
I saw
okay.
it. Whether or not you agreed with how extreme my
He's
opinion
not. He's probably the easiest boss in the DLC, aside from Half-Light.
and then two.
He, Nameless, and Orphan of Kos were considered the hardest Souls boss pre-Sekiro. Yeah, I can see that, definitely. Yeah, that makes sense.
Game could advertise a season pass for more sales, or so the game would have 2 DLC releases to promote the base game instead of just 1.
Excuse me.
I think it's clear now that this is exactly what happened, especially given how connected both of the DLCs
I'm trying
are.
to think of like who else I would put up there with them, like before, like pre-Sekiro, who would be the hardest, like Demon Prince maybe. I never struggled that much with Demon Prince though. Like I never, not even my first playthrough. I don't know why, because I recognize that like it's harder than other fights that I did struggle with, but I don't know. I guess maybe I just caught it at like the perfect intersection of me getting better and like that fight. I don't know.
For examples, the NPC that grants you access to the Ashes DLC ends up being the final boss in Ring City.
Yes.
The reason he's there is linked to the painter in Ariandel. You can go back there and give her an item after killing Gale at the end of the DLC. If you do Ring City first, though, then Gale is dead and is no longer at the Cathedral of the Deep in order to teleport you to
I've
Ariandel.
never died to Demon Prince, so nice, dude.
Interact with a scrap of the painting here.
I can't say that, but I have had a pretty easy time with it every time I've fought it.
Instead, with a different cutscene that plays. This is how intertwined the DLC content is. It feels to me that Ashes may have originally meant to be last. So you start in the Dreadkeep, which would make the DLC have a much smoother transition from that disturbing imagery you saw at the end of the base game in Dark Souls 3. You fight your way through there, travel to the more exotic Ring City, and learn about Gale. After defeating him, you would return to something more familiar in the series with Ariandel, which, as a single level in a larger DLC, would be a substantial way to end. Frida would be the final big tough 3-phase fight, and then you can end the story of Gale and Ariandel right then by talking to the painter. As it is now, splitting the DLC meant that Ariandel was the only choice to go first, since it would have been unacceptable to go with the larger DLC and then end with a much shorter one, since they cost the same amount. All of this isn't a huge problem, but I find myself in the unfortunate position of wishing I hadn't bothered playing Ashes of Ariandel until all of the DLC was out.
And he's playing very well in all the clips he's showing. Like, that was some nice movement and dodging against Frida.
To go with the larger DLC and then end with a much shorter one, since they cost the same amount.
People weren't happy about how short Ariandel was. Yeah, it is really short. They could have just made it one DLC, honestly. Fucking make it a really big one. That would have been cool. Yeah.
There's also a really cool trick that shows you there's no limit to the damage prevention.
And it's even, it's thematic, you know? It's cool.
Item and fall far below through a window to a new area.
It's not just a gamey thing, it's a ludonarrative consonance.
This caused a shift in perception for me.
Sorry.
I wasn't just looking ahead to where I could go next. I was looking down to see if there were any piles of ash that led to secret areas. Unfortunately, this mechanic isn't used much in the level, likely for the same reasons that From included those helper messages. It can be a little difficult to tell what's safe to land on, and they must have been afraid many players would try to get the places, die, and be angry with all of the trial
Yeah, you know,
error.
it would have been cool if they put some that weren't as obvious, that you could have, that had like cool items or like, I don't know, Easter eggs or something. I don't know.
There were only 2 secret places that I found to fall, one at the beginning which makes it faster to get into the level after dying, and the second was a drop at the end of an optional path to an alternate route to the swamp at the bottom. It's possible that I might have missed another secret that uses this mechanic, and I still enjoy that the level successfully tried something new, but I think the result is more of a fun gimmick than a really interesting feature that's fully fleshed out. The major problem with the way this works is that it requires backtracking through the level via bonfire warps or death, so if you want to see everything you are going to have to do the earlier part of the level again. This is fine for a one-off area like this, but it may have been another reason why secret paths that use the falls were limited, to reduce how many level resets the player would have to go through to get back up to the top to make the fall. The minor problem is that I think the dust piles themselves look really lame. Your character simply clips through them like it's a raised part of the floor. Having a unique animation of your character getting stuck and pulling themselves out, like the sand or snow in Mario 64, would probably have been too much work and slowed down navigation through the level too much to be worth it. But maybe simply landing on top of the ash would have been an easier and better way to avoid this awful-looking clipping. 2 other things worth mentioning in the angels and an unexpected shortcut. Halfway through the level, this winged monster appears in the air and starts spewing lasers at you. The idea is that you run away from it, dodging when you can, and use cover until it takes a break between each barrage. This first angel is fairly simple, and your urge to rush forward...
That's exactly how, by the way, like that little thing that he just mentioned about that ash, clipping through the ash, there's nothing wrong with mentioning that. That's exactly how long the section about Mateus Runback should have been.
Prompted the fall from a ledge here.
I want to check something real quick. When did this come out? June 10th, 2017. Okay. I think through laziness, Joseph Anderson has lucked into giving people the impression that he considers his opinions more carefully than he does.
There are 2 more angels in the swamp of the second half of Dreadkeep. I think swamps have been used too much in the series now, and I don't find them interesting anymore. This one is quite small and may have to be included out of...
Wait, did you say swamps or like poison swamps? Like,
if the area you're exploring while it's shooting you had more to see and do. There are 2 more angels in the swamp of the second half of Dreadkeep. I think swamps have been used too much in the series now, and I don't find them interesting anymore.
Okay.
This one is quite small and
I think swamps are lit, personally. I think more games should have swamps in them. Not necessarily poison swamps, but just like, I think it's a cool aesthetic, the marsh, you know? It's neat.
Included out of necessity after deciding that this area would be a collapsed Earth, and how much criticism this level received for not making sense in that game, I have to wonder if this was done out of spite or something. Either way, I thought it was cool, and I didn't expect to find it here. You need to use.
You know, I never thought of that, but that's pretty funny to think that maybe they did.
The one on fire.
See, like, again, he's playing really well.
With melee attacks, whereas the other will favor hanging back and use poison breath and spit.
Where's the disconnect with him and Elden Ring? Is it literally just he didn't think about positioning and jumping and crouching enough? I don't know.
The demon in range mode creates a warning line on the floor to let you know the attack is coming, so that you can dodge away from the melee demon without having to constantly look back at what the range
Yes, okay, I mean, yeah. I mean, that does explain it pretty neatly, doesn't it?
But combined with the second demon can make for some more challenging overlap that feels fair to fight against. That said, the demons do not always work this way, and I think it could be argued that this is something you might have to make happen yourself by luring the aggressive demon away from the other. Even doing that, I often felt that the exhausted demon wouldn't always act like it.
And you didn't want to poise break and play like a pussy and... Wait, what? He didn't want to poise break? Okay.
Enough that it still feels fair like this, since it's easy to dodge away and
maybe that's what I should be watching right now.
But there can be some waiting around for this.
He was too okay.
The fight feels more fun when it's you against one demon with the other in ranged mode. The demon switching between these modes can also be punished when you learn to recognize those changes for openings.
Yeah, because he threw his hands up in the air like a fucking crybaby and gave up trying to get better at a certain point. He fucking says that in the video.
Especially if you hit them enough to trigger a stagger and a big hit. Both demons have to be killed before going into the next phase, and Demon Prince is different depending on which one was the last to die. The boss's core moveset is a more advanced version of the two demons that came before. He's a lot bigger, but much of the clawing and rampaging is similar. He can jump into the air for a slam attack, as well as flying away for a fiery dive, or to do one of two special moves. If Demon in Pain was the last to die, then Demon Prince can summon fire orbs that spit at you, and then begin charging a massive storm of fire. This takes a while to complete, and is difficult to avoid when it's at full power. As far as I can
tell, maybe it's ironic that I'm going to say this, but this is a thought that I've had that like you probably shouldn't. It's probably bad to like play Elden Ring in like a huge like binge marathon where like you play nothing else. And it's ironic that I'm saying that because it's exactly what I did. But like, it's good to take breaks. I don't know, man. Because sometimes like I get into a video where somebody's critiquing like Elden Ring or something, and it's just like it just sounds like you're like sick of it and you need to like take a break. Like I don't know, like Feeble King especially is like who I'm thinking of with this. It just really sounded like at certain points he like was just straight up not having a good time. Like not just the parts where he said I didn't have fun explicitly, but like the parts where he was saying I had to suffer through this and that, and the boss fight was a punishment, and like it's just like, bro, are you all right? Like, just chill. Fuck. I don't know. No. I'm not saying... maybe... Okay, maybe it's a case-by-case basis type of thing, where, like, not everybody... I don't know. I just think definitely certain people might be better served, like... maybe some people need to be less insane, and some people need to be more insane. I don't know. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Him enough to interrupt the building storm before too many of the fireballs can spawn.
Or maybe there's you know what, no, that's not it. There's a positive insanity when it comes to these games, and there's a negative insanity, and we're figuring out those criteria now.
Demon Prince doesn't use these moves often, however, so it's not a big difference, and my guess is that most players won't realize that the order in which you kill the first demons even matters. They'll think Demon Prince simply has some moves he rarely shows.
You really think? I don't know, I picked up on that pretty quick.
Responding to his mix of melee attacks.
Maybe it's just because I died a bunch, but... Maybe he died less than me.
He reminds me a lot of Sin, even though he's not a dragon, which is... Although I think it's a little funny for me to realize that if this had simply been another angel, I probably would have just accepted it as a continuation of that monster instead of recycling an idea, so I guess it's okay. It's kind of weird how that perception works.
That's a good point, Joseph Anderson. One that I would not have expected you to make. It accounts for bias in a way that you don't tend to do.
And this is good. It really is. I don't mind that From decided to play it safe with this final DLC and make great new versions of content that fans like to see as a goodbye, in terms of gameplay anyway. I don't know how fans of the lore will appreciate all of this. It ties into why I described the DLC as...
I'm like a fake fan of the lore. I think it's fucking great.
It's bittersweet at the beginning, though, since there was something disappointing here that we'll get to at the end. Something missing. Having said that,
by that I mean I get most of my information from Vati Vidya after I finish the game. The one exception was the Elden Ring DLC, where I actually did read most of the item descriptions as I got the items.
He does nothing new. The turtle clerics are a fun enemy that create void zones that damage you if you stand in them.
I feel like the Ring in City has the best part of the lore. Yeah, kind of, right? Like it ties everything up in such a nice, neat package that like it's, yeah. It's definitely like a highlight for me. in the whole series.
Having to avoid at least one void zone. This is especially true if there's more than one of them around. I would have liked to see these guys used more often with other enemies in areas, or maybe more of them could have been hiding in the swamp and emerged to join in the fight against other enemies. So you have to dodge those void zones while dealing with another enemy.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like he criticized the lore. He just said he wasn't sure how people who care about the lore are going to feel. That's perfectly fine.
The insect-like humans in the swamp are also.
But he did kind of build in the assumption that they were going to feel negatively, didn't he? Fuck you, Joseph Anderson. Why are you like this? Oh my god.
Basic humanoid enemy type. They hover in place and have different attacks than the usual weapon swipes with 2 feet firmly on the ground. Many of their combos are telegraphed so well, but are still dangerous, that I enjoyed fighting groups of this enemy type more than any other in the DLC.
Are
the
you
ring knights are
really?
also easy to encounter in groups.
Okay.
These I found to be the most difficult. They can be very aggressive with long sweeping combos when they ignite their weapons, but it was the heavy shield wielders that were the most substantial fights. But the cursed variant is the worst enemy in the DLC because it results in so much waiting around. If you're a melee build, then you will fill up
you know what? Yeah, I actually agree with that, like fully.
In a narrow corridor together,
that's really annoying.
Waiting around for the curse to deplete enough.
But I just run past them, so it's not that big of a deal.
There is no challenge here. This is a problem I've had for the whole series, and it's a shame that we're this many games and DLC in, and a simple solution hasn't been.
It's just like I just assume that maybe. Like, first of all, you don't have to fight everything, and like taking that into account, like maybe they don't want you to fight everything necessarily. Maybe some things you do just run through, and that's actually the expected move. I don't know.
Implemented yet, which leaves us with Gale the Knight and Midir the Dragon. Let's go with Gale first because I think From intended for the dragon to be fought last. Gale has quite possibly the most grandiose introduction.
Many people have said that to me, and I just don't. I don't know why. Like Gale feels like. It's like he's screaming at you. Hey, do you want to play the end of Dark Souls? Here it is.
In all of the Souls games.
I don't know.
The build up to his reveal as part of the boss's package. Mechanically, Gale is Artorias on steroids. His first phase was the most difficult for me since he has a lot of moves, some decently long combos, and some attacks that you really need to see a few times before you get the dodge.
I found his first phase like pretty easy.
And then quickly jumps away into another attack.
I love gatekeeping
It's that
Gale.
jumping that reminds me of Artorias, and it's the thrashing that reminds me of Orphan of Cause. After this phase, the fight becomes slower. Gale starts using some ranged abilities. He has a repeating crossbow and can throw out a spray of projectiles that are then pulled back to him from the same direction.
Maybe I just have goblin energy, so I'm more like the frantic phase of his fight is more suited to me.
It's about positioning and not just dodging his sword strikes, although he still does plenty of that. His cloak is now a part of those attacks, which acts as a sort of after trail or a follow-up to each slash.
Yeah.
At first, this reminded me a lot of the fire trails in Phase 2 of the Abyss Watchers. It still does in concept at least, but my experience was that Gale's version didn't require multiple dodges for each attack, but instead a better timed dodge. It was the
or better positioning, better dodge roll direction and control. I don't think you had the dodge. You don't. If you do it right, you don't. But you know. I mean, like I've been in that situation many times where I have to dodge twice to get out of a fire trail, but it's always because I make a mistake with my first dodge, not because that's what you have to do.
Midir, on the other hand, is the opposite of Gale in
All right, we listened to him talk about Midir already. Wait, we didn't finish listening to him talk about it, did we? Just so tired? I feel you.
Almost as spectacular an introduction as he swoops in to guard his cliff, the path that leads to the boss fight itself is hidden and tucked away. Even then, the room you find the entrance in is a small, almost forgotten thing.
Wait, let me skip ahead to like what I haven't heard.
The reason I feel comfortable pointing to this is something that feels like all of that.
Oh yeah, okay. I clicked off after the timer because I thought that was ridiculous. Now I remember.
All of his health. And I say all of that as someone who only died to this boss about 6 times when I first killed him, which is a good way to address the fight. I've read some comments saying that Midir is too difficult. I don't really agree with that. He's just awkward and has some cheap moments. As I already said, learning some of his moves, like his tail swipe and his different fire breaths, can be an exercise in trial and error because he's just so big.
I think I know.
The only way to keep him in view.
I think there's okay. I think there's many factors that have led to Joseph Anderson's success, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's fucking astroturfed. Okay, this goes all the way to the top. H-Bomber guy is involved. All right, I'm not joking. This is true. I'm going to fucking put this together and you're going to see. By the way, Joseph Anderson, if you want to see the level of dedication, this is what it's supposed to look like. If you want to critique FromSoft games.
Many of his animations seem deliberately made in order for him to shift his legs.
This is the brain that you need.
And get into position to strike. Much that it's
a lot of crying. I'm sorry, Katie, that sucks.
Yet you can learn to compensate for this at the end of his tail for some good hits while he's channeling a fire breath. You can also learn to dodge his counterattack right afterward and then rush back in to keep hitting him. His body takes half of the damage that his head does, but this was worth the safety to me because staying locked onto his head made the camera whip around like crazy for too many of his moves. Basically,
why fight him like this? I'm not paying attention. I'm thinking about the part of the H-Bomber guy video where he talks about Joseph Anderson. Oh no.
He says you run there.
Let me watch him do it.
Shortcut. It's this drawn-out run to a boss that is drawn out even more with get into position to strike. It happens so much that it's either on purpose or a giant coincidence. Yet you can learn to compensate for this at the end of his tail for some good hits while he's
wait, what is he doing?
You can also learn to dodge his counterattack right afterward and then rush back and keep hitting him.
Okay. So like You just don't. I don't know how they could have made this any clearer. The one lock-on point for Medeiros is head. Like, that's all you can lock onto. Stay in front of it the whole time. You will never have any problems with this fight. It is perfect if you do that. The only problem becomes that at that point that it's too easy.
His body takes half of the damage that his head does, but this was worth the safety to me because staying locked onto his head made the camera whip around like crazy for too many of his moves. Basically, I compensated and learned to account for the awkwardness and was able to get him down.
Yes, that is how you're supposed to play. You compensate, you learn to adjust, you get better. Congratulations on understanding Dark Souls for like a millisecond, Joseph.
And some hits on his head as I ran back under him. On my second kill, I attacked the head exclusively, and this is now what I consider to be the superior version of the fight and the way it was meant to be done.
Wow!
There's a lot of things that support that.
Fuck!
The only lock-on point for him, even though he's massive. He doesn't chain his wide fire breath on the floor as often, which can lock you out of hitting him, and many of his swipes and bites leave good openings for his head. The best evidence of all, however, is that if you hit him enough, he enters a stagger state that wipes out about a fifth of his health bar.
Is he? What you think you're proving something? Yes, they meant for you to hit the head, Joseph. Obviously. What is this, like, Columbo shit? Okay.
Meaning that the fight isn't as long as it first appears. This doesn't happen if you don't go for his head. However, the game
This is
usually lets you choose
ridiculous.
your own way to fight bosses, so for some this won't be acceptable, or rather it won't be ideal. I enjoyed the fight a lot more doing it like this, but I'd also already seen it a bunch and I knew what to expect. If I had gone exclusively for the head from the start, then maybe I would have had a rougher time. An example being a horrendous decision that, in Phase 2, he can start charging a new type of beam breath attack that can kill you outright if it lands. And there's no real way to anticipate how this is going to move until you've seen it once already, maybe even twice if it kills you really quickly, after taking so long to get to Phase 2. This is a different pattern than the beam he uses on the cliff or in the first phase of the fight. I had already seen it and knew what to expect on the second kill. And maybe it's just as simple as that. The fight is one that's more enjoyable once you've seen it enough instead of one that you can take to immediately. If attacking the head was the way this was meant to be done, though, I wish they had made
What?
long to get to Phase 2. This is a different pattern than the beam he uses on the cliff or in the first phase of the fight. I had already seen it and knew what to expect on the second kill. And maybe it's just as simple as that. The fight is one that's more enjoyable once you've seen it enough instead of one that you can take.
That's every fight, Joseph. That's all of them. That is how it works.
This is a different pattern than the beam he uses on the cliff or in the first phase of the fight. I had already seen it and knew what to expect on.
Every time, every fucking time I watch one of these videos, the same fundamental misunderstanding emerges. Like, how are you fans of Dark Souls if you don't understand that it's supposed to take you a long time? You're supposed to sink into the fights and understand them on some level to succeed. Okay.
On the second kill. And maybe it's just as simple as
How is this such a consistent problem? I thought everybody understood this.
The fight is one that's more enjoyable once you've seen it enough instead of one that you can take to immediately. If attacking the head was the way this was...
I feel like I'm living in Bizarro World. I fucking called a chapter of my Feeble King video that because it literally makes me feel insane.
Be done, though, I wish they had made that more clear.
I've been playing these games for less than a year. I started playing Bloodborne less than a year ago, guys. And I understand this.
Damage to his body isn't that bad considering...
Joseph Anderson is a Souls veteran. Whatever the fuck that actually means. I have to piss. I'll be right back. When the second part of the Tenet leak happens, it's going to implicate all this, the psyop that's happened with Elden Ring discourse and everybody who fucking criticizes Dark Souls and all of these games, okay? I'm so fucking serious. Oh my god.
You can often hit him multiple times compared to only one hit on his head. I also had to learn to recognize when I should unlock my camera from his head in order to prevent it from whipping around. This is something that could have been done for you. Before he starts his frenzy, or when he starts fire breath, he emits some sort of pulse that cancels your lock so you're not left wondering what's happening as the camera goes crazy. Once again, it comes back to the series not communicating clearly enough that your lock-on is a tool to use.
Okay, no, you know what? No, we need to go deeper now. I'm changing the stream details. This isn't about Liza P anymore. I'm watching Democracy's video about Elden Ring next. About the Elden Ring DLC. Ah yes, Dark Souls, the most communicative game ever that does stuff for you, yeah.
And that should always be active. I do understand why some people won't like...
It's like, yeah. I love the premise of Dark Souls, except when it specifically inconveniences me, and then I want it fixed, because then it's a problem.
This boss, even if they do click with all of these little oddities. His health is enough to make the encounter grueling, although I personally enjoy it since it matches his large size. This feels like exactly what you're doing, fighting this massive dragon that you should have no business standing up to, but here you are trying anyway.
People want spoon feeding? I know I do. But that's only sexually.
Health, since they encourage a lot of waiting. Many of his breath attacks force you to retreat or run around him until the fire is over. And worst of all is his forward rampage that he can spam. It goes on for quite a while, and you just have to wait for it to
I
finish.
love
after
that
dodging the
attack.
first part of it. I don't quite understand what the idea behind that one was. It's
What's
that
the
bittersweet
point?
feeling I talked about.
Honestly, what is the point of criticizing it on a granular level when I've finally fucking locked on to the bigger picture here? Okay, nope, we're done. Joseph Anderson, fuck you. I've read you, bitch. Democracy's next.